All right, welcome back, dear viewers, for a second video on these two game systems. This one's going to be a little longer. We're focusing on character generation, and these two are wildly different. And you're going to see by the end of this video how the two really are uh, provide different styles and experiences, but using very similar systems. But before we get into it, this is what I do. I play games, I record myself playing games, and then I talk about those games. I got nothing against the flip through review, but sometimes I think you just don't get the advice you need as to whether or not you should be purchasing these items. Um, Thus, the deep dive actual play experience I think is so much more valuable, and I hope you feel that way too. And hit like, subscribe, bell icon, yada yada yada. Let's get into it. All right, so character generation. Yeah, you're basically making superheroes with these games, and Marvel Superheroes is the origin of the system that Heroic is using. But there are some significant differences. The last video, I just kind of gave a brief overview of what the systems are. And in this, we're going to see the real difference in character generation. And the follow up video after this is going to get into feats and how a judge, game master, adjudicates the game. And you're going to continue to see some serious differences. So we're going to start with Marvel first, and then we'll hit Heroic. So with Marvel, you have a 5-step process. You generate an origin, then generate your primary abilities, the FASERIP, then your secondary abilities, and then your special abilities. And then, of course, filling in the blanks to round out your character. So there are a number of origins that all, you know, pretty much mask and follow what you would see in the comic books. Your altered humans, they're the ones who got changed, and they get some abilities. As you can see, they get after they randomly determine primary abilities. You will increase one of them by rank. Mutants, again, randomly rolled primary abilities. They get a bonus power. However, they have a reduction in resources. Popularity starts at 0. Their endurance of the FASERIP stat line is increased, and they are affected by mutant nullification and detection powers and technology. High-tech characters, these are your Iron Mans. They roll on a separate table for primary abilities. They get their reason increased by 2 ranks, and they can either roll for resource or just default to good. Everyone else defaults to typical. They have at least 1 contact and at least 1 scientific or professional talent. That sort of relates to where their powers come from. Robots, we all know what those are. They also have a separate table to generate abilities. Their popularity starts at 0, like mutants. But there is no karma loss for killing a robot. We'll be talking about karma in a separate video. But the robot can be rebuilt when it is destroyed or killed. And then finally, we have aliens. These are like Thor, right? They have a separate table as well. And I have the table here so you can see. You roll D100 and consult the chart. And as you can see, like mutants and altered humans, at most, they're going to have a rank of amazing in a FASERIP ability, whereas aliens and robots have the opportunity to getting monstrous. Okay. And I should mention, aliens get 1 less power, minimum of 2, and they start with poor resources, and must have at least 1 contact from their primary home planet or dimension. But those are the basic origins. Secondary abilities are karma. That's just your adding reason, intuition, and psyche. Generating resources, you start with either typical, poor for an alien, and then you roll on that modification chart that I have pictured here. Tech guys can do that if they want to try, or they can just default to good. And then generating popularity starts at 10, 0 for mutants, and then it can be modified. Like if you're known, like Tony Stark, everyone knows he's Iron Man, so he gets an extra 10 points to his starting popularity. Mutants and secret identity popularity is reduced by 5, and of course for unpopular, it's even worse. Here is sort of the nitty gritty. So when determining powers, talents, and contacts, you're going to roll on this chart here, and it'll tell you the minimum and the maximum, okay? And then your power table has this, you essentially roll on this power table to see what category of powers. And then there's a whole set of other tables for resistances, increased senses, movement powers, matter control powers, energy control, so on and so forth. I'm only showing you the general category here, but that's what you would do. You then roll randomly to see what kind of powers you get. So you could get some really wild and random stuff. You could have someone with like resistance to fire and elasticity. You know, you could have a tech guy who has some sort of body control power, like transformation into an animal, right? But that's how it's generated. It's all randomly rolled like that. Similarly with talents, there's a general category table, and then like powers, there's these subtables that you would roll on. So like weapon skills, you could get something like guns, swords, or something like that. Professional skills could be anything. But again, randomly generated. The only, I guess, thing that isn't randomly generated is contacts. This is where you would be talking to your game master a bit to say, hey, these are the contacts I have. They don't necessarily have to start with a contact, but it'll come out during gameplay. Marvel Superheroes does provide you with sort of a list, some examples, anything from law enforcement to business to the scientific to the occult, like if you're like a Doctor Strange type character. So, but other than that, everything is randomly generated. And then, filling in the blanks. You just take everything you roll together and try to, put together your hero. So like maybe you rolled altered human, some kind of body transformation ability, a scientific contact, and talents, right? So maybe you rolled a high reason as well. So maybe your character was accidentally transformed during an experiment, like the Hulk, right? Conversely, if maybe you had a low reason and like a low starting resources, but you have a scientific contact, maybe it's a similar thing. There was a scientific experiment that went wrong, but you were like the janitor, and it just happened to be there, right? Who knows? But that's kind of like you just take all these random die rolls and kind of cobble something together out of all that. So what does heroic do? Well, we have a 10-step process as opposed to a 5-step, and it goes pretty detailed, and it is wildly different. You're about to see how. So let's start with determining campaign rank. What is that? Well, the game master, in collaboration with the players, I think is a good idea, determines what kind of campaign you're going to run. You have street level, mid-level, world class, and godlike. Godlike to me would be sort of like, I know this is a DCC reference, but that's like, Superman and Wonder Woman and stuff. But street level would be kind of like your Doc Savage, the Phantom, Punisher. I think, and that's what the Row campaign is. We started with street level, and I'm really liking it. I think Gary, our game master, would have liked to have started a little higher level, but I twisted his arm a little bit because I like that. I'm into the pulp right now, so and he was gracious enough to acquiesce. But anyway, so the campaign rank determines the highest starting intensity rank for any ability or power your players are gonna have. And how this works is you can take the ranks from your pool of ranks, which we're going to talk about in a second, and you can add them together to create something bigger, or pull them apart to create two smaller, lower ranked, I guess, ranks to spend. So, and the campaign rank determines the pool available. So, for the street level, you'd have one remarkable rank to spend, two excellent, three good, and then everything else is typical. And you can't do anything with the typicals. However, you can break apart and add the goods and the excellence to get, and the remarkables to get maybe something that's at incredible rank, you know. And you will spend this pool on your FASERIP, your talents, your contacts, and powers. You then choose an origin, and your origin will modify what you're going to be spending and how you spend things. So, like artificial, that's your robot. You get no ranks in psyche, but you have two of the physical part of the FASERIP increased by one rank. And you start with the unliving hitch. We'll talk about those eventually in this video. Birthright is like a legacy superhero, like your parents are superheroes, or maybe you're just a mutant. They get bonuses to renown, a bonus talent, and a free superhero contact. If they're a legacy character, mutants have a -1 shift to renown, but they also get a bonus talent and gain unusual appearance hitch because of their mutation. Might be a mystical character, bonus rank in psyche, gain the mystical talent for free, the vulnerability hitch, which has to be somehow related to your magical powers. Outsider is like your alien character, bonus to a primary ability of choice, and then a bonus contact. And then technological, that's like the Iron Man type character. If you're the creator of the tech, you get a bonus to reason. If you're just a user of the tech, like your contact is the one that made the stuff, the super gear, you can add a bonus to any of the FASERIP abilities except reason. And then you get a bonus talent, and then the normal human hitch gets tacked onto that. Trained characters are just like, excellent at what they do, like Hawkeye, they get a single ability increase by one rank related to their training, as is the bonus talent. So Hawkeye would probably have a bonus to agility and a bow's talent, so he gets a +1 to rank shift when he uses his bow. And then your transform, these are your altered humans. Any FASERIP ability can be increased by one rank, bonus contact, bonus talent. So if you think the pool, the FASERIP pool, is especially at street level, seems rather restrictive. Depending on your origin, you're going to get bonuses and stuff to kind of help round out your character. So yeah, then now you start purchasing ability and use the pool to purchase FASERIP ranks. Yeah, and then you'll purchase powers and equipment using the pool of ranks to do just that. And what you spend the power on, or what rank you spend the power on, is the rank of the power. So if you use a good and you have healing, you'll have good healing, right? It's really that simple. And this is sort of where you're going to want to think about breaking apart your ranks to create smaller ranks, or if you really want a tough power or ability, combining ranks to create one higher. So 2 excellence would equal remarkable, and a remarkable would equal 2 excellence, right? Talents, these are your bonus to your, whenever you make like a skill roll, right? Can be purchased at excellent. And contacts can be purchased with good. But again, remember, some of your origins are going to give you freebies. So keep that in mind, right? And then we talk about perks and hitches. A perk costs a good, a rank of good, and gives you a little extra something, a bonus of some kind. But it also provides RP opportunity. And then hitches give you a good rank if you take on. They're like a drawback. So like Dr. Alchemy has trouble lying, right? So whenever he tries to deceive someone, he's going to have a -2 column shift in that attempt, right? Well, that gave me an extra good rank, which I think I spent on my healing syringe or something like that. I honestly can't remember. But you can obviously offset perks and hitches to you know, balance everything out if you so choose. So and then pick a calling. Now this is something that I've been seeing like in free league type games where you have like this aspect of your character that when it comes into play, it gives you a bonus. A very similar thing here. Once per game session, you can for free tag your calling and get a bonus column shift on whatever role you're doing. And your calling is like this very heavy role play element to character creation. It's like what drives your character. So like when that comes up into play, you can, you know, get a bonus, or you can spend 15 karma to activate it, and it's sort of like, I guess, sort of shift the current narrative to include your calling and get that bonus. It's not some. It's you don't see that in the Marvel game. And then of course, final touches, bringing it all together, just like with Marvel superheroes. You're gonna want to like take the contacts and the powers and the abilities and all that stuff, and mash them together and create your superhero. So as you can obviously see, while they both are using like this universal table, the D10 concept, they're already very different games. Marvel Superheroes to me is like classic OSR. And I'm using OSR in a very broad sense here because obviously Marvel Superheroes is not a D&D clone, but it is old school. And it has a lot of those old school sensibilities. Random dice determine your character. There's very little player input during character generation. You know, it's well after the dice are rolled. You know, one thing I've noticed, and I remember from back in the day when we played this game, you know, there was really no balance between the PCs. I mean, you could have a character ends up kind of like a Punisher, but then the next player has like a Thor character. You know, they're just two wildly wildly differing in power level, and I think that's kind of awkward for gameplay. And I wouldn't make that a criticism. I think that's a fair criticism of Marvel superheroes. With Heroic, though, you don't get that. It's more modern sensibilities. There's collaboration with the GM. There are no random tables at the character generation section of Heroic. In fact, all the powers are listed in the back of the book, whereas Marvel Superheroes, it's right there. And I think that is a strength, and a subtle strength of Heroic, because it's getting you, the player, to think like, what kind of character do you want to play? Like, what powers are you thinking? And like, can we figure out how mechanically how it works? Which isn't that hard because you have the universal table, right? So it's really just like, what rank are you going to give this weird power that you've come up with? You know, Doc Alchemy just injects himself with drugs that make him tougher. You know, so it's kind of like this body transformation ability, but it's all based on injections. And then because it takes a full turn game round to inject, like that's kind of a hitch. So that kind of we upped the power level of that. But yeah, and then you have point by, essentially the rank, campaign rank is like a point by creation system. And that helps keep a balance amongst the team members, so everyone is like on the same footing when they start playing. And you know, at the end of the day, I think Heroic really is a focus on like originality and creativity and backstory. This is like more of a story game, and I say that not as a criticism. I say that as, I think it's a strength, and I sort of feel like for a comic book game, that's what you'd want. You know, the random die roll character generator works good for OSR D&D type games because those sword and sorcery tropes and archetypes are there, you know, like those class systems, and it works for that. I don't think that kind of thing works for modern games, you know, contemporary, you know, setting type games, certainly for superhero, and I think superheroes falls into that. So I think I like Heroic's character generation system just so much more. But that's all I got for today. Next video, which will be after Christmas, I'm going to start talking about running the game, the feat system, intensities, karma, and the universal tables and the difference between the two. And I think you're going to be, I don't want to say amazed, but I think you'll find it interesting, the subtle differences and how they've kind of, really have, each game has their own identity, even with just these subtle differences. So stick with me. I appreciate it. Hit like and subscribe, and go be heroic. And while you're being heroic, have a Merry Christmas.